Japan hides some of the most terrifying legends, buried in the silence of its cities and forests. Tonight, we uncover three true urban nightmares, from haunted train stations to cursed tunnels that bend time itself. Don't look back. These stories have already seen you. It always started with the rain. Kyoto Station was usually alive with footsteps, train whistles, and the rumble of vending machines. But when it rained, especially at night, a strange silence crept in. Something about the patter of water on the steel roof dulled the energy. It turned even the most crowded platforms into hollow echo chambers. Takumi, a 27-year-old software engineer, was no stranger to late nights. He often worked overtime at his startup job, missing the last train more times than he cared to admit. That evening was no different. It was past midnight, and the rain had soaked the city. Kyoto Station gleamed in the wet reflections of its halogen lights. As Takumi reached platform 13, the furthest, quietest one, he noticed something strange. A woman stood at the very edge of the platform, her back to him. She wore a striking red kimono, old-fashioned and out of place in the urban setting. In her hand, she held a crimson paper umbrella. The rain didn't seem to touch her. Her umbrella, though made of traditional washi paper, showed no signs of wetness. Her black hair fell neatly over her shoulders, unmoving in the breeze. Takumi assumed she was a tourist, perhaps from a nearby temple performance. Still, something about her made him pause. He sat on the bench a few meters away, pretending to check his phone, but he couldn't help glancing at her. She didn't move. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Every now and then, Takumi looked up from his phone. She was still there, unmoving, as if frozen. But every time he blinked, just for a split second, she seemed slightly closer. It was barely perceptible, but undeniable. At one point, she had been at the far end of the platform. Now she was just 5 steps from the yellow safety line. He blinked again. She was closer. His heartbeat quickened. His throat dried. He rose from the bench and began to walk back toward the main lobby. Glancing behind him, the woman was gone. A cold draft swept past him as if someone had just passed by in the opposite direction. But there was no one. The next morning, he laughed it off. Lack of sleep. Stress. Maybe he dozed off and imagined it. But the next time it rained, she returned. Again on platform 13. Again, unmoving. Again, that crimson umbrella that defied the laws of nature. Each time, she inched closer. By the 4th sighting, she was standing directly across from him, separated only by the thin yellow safety line. Takumi stared at her, trying to muster the courage to speak. Her eyes met his. They were dark, bottomless. Her face was pale, her lips tinged with blue. She tilted her head slowly, as if studying him. "You can see me?" she whispered. Takumi's blood ran cold. He bolted from the platform, sprinting up the escalators and into the bustling lobby. He didn't stop until he reached the street, where the sound of cars and life returned him to reality. That night, he researched. What he found disturbed him. For decades, Kyoto locals whispered about the赤Casa Onna, the woman with the red umbrella. Legend said she was a young geisha who had thrown herself in front of a train at Kyoto Station after being abandoned by her lover. Since then, she appeared to lone passengers on rainy nights. The stories were consistent. She stood silently, holding a crimson umbrella, and drew closer with every encounter. until finally she asked, "Can you see me?" And then you vanished. He tried to convince himself it was urban myth, but deep down he knew. She had spoken to him. That meant the countdown had begun. For the next few days, Takumi avoided the station entirely. He worked from home. When it rained, he locked his doors and closed his curtains. But urban legends, they don't just disappear. On the seventh night, he awoke to the soft tap of rain on his window. And something else. It wasn't coming from the glass. It was inside the room. Takumi sat up, heart hammering. The light from a nearby street lamp cast dim shadows across his bedroom. And then he saw it. The tip of a crimson umbrella, poking out from behind his closet door. Slowly, it pushed open. She stepped out, silent, soaking wet. Her kimono dragged water across his floor. Her face was blank, lifeless, but her eyes, they locked onto his. And her head tilted again. "You saw me," she said softly, her voice like wind through dead leaves. "Now you must come." Takumi tried to scream, but no sound came. His body was frozen. She raised the umbrella, and in an instant, the world went black. Takumi was never found. His apartment was locked from the inside. No signs of forced entry. His shoes were still at the door. His laptop still warm. Only one clue remained. A wet footprint near the bedroom window. And a small crimson paper umbrella leaning gently against the wall. Now, whenever it rains in Kyoto, passengers claim to see a woman in red near platform 13. Sometimes she speaks. If she asks, "Can you see me?" don't answer. Locals called it the Shrine of Lost Voices, a moss-covered, decaying structure hidden deep inside the Yamanaka forest. Most never spoke of it. The few who did would go silent halfway through their story, as if remembering something too horrible to finish. Children were warned never to play near the woods. And hikers? They never returned the same, if they returned at all. Toru Nakamura, a half-Japanese travel vlogger raised in Seattle, was obsessed with the strange. His YouTube channel focused on haunted places, and he'd grown a modest following after filming himself sleeping overnight in creepy inns and suicide forests. But when he heard of a shrine in Ishikawa where people forgot themselves, he felt that familiar thrill. He ignored the warnings. Shrine of Lost Voices? Sounds clickbait-worthy. He laughed in his video intro, pointing at the towering cedar trees behind him. He entered the forest at 3 p.m. By 4:15, his GPS had stopped updating. The path narrowed, and a thick, unnatural mist curled through the trees like fingers. Even the birds had gone silent. And then he saw it. A broken torii gate, sagging like an old spine. Beyond it stood a forgotten shrine, barely more than a hut, overrun by vines and rot. 2 stone lanterns, cracked and crumbling, stood like sentries. Between them, a row of dolls sat on the steps. Their faces were stained, their kimonos faded by decades of rain and wind. Yet every single one faced forward, as if watching, or waiting. Toru felt a shiver crawl down his back. He filmed his approach. "Looks like someone left these old Hina dolls here," he narrated. Creepy, but kinda cute. His voice cut out. On the playback, only static remained after that sentence. He didn't know it yet. He stepped closer and knelt to look at one of the dolls. Its face that had his eyes. Wide, glassy, brown, with the same tiny freckle under the right one. He staggered back, the camera slipping slightly. Behind him, something moved. He spun around. Nothing but forest. When he turned back, the doll was facing him directly. "I swear it was just looking forward," he whispered. "You should have run." Instead, he entered the shrine. Inside, the air was heavy, thick with the scent of mildew, wet earth, and something older. On the altar sat a wooden fox mask, but it was wrong. The mouth was jagged, carved into a grin far too wide, and red smears trailed from its eye sockets. He reached for the camera to zoom in, but before he could lift it, the whispering began. Soft, dozens of voices, like children speaking behind a wall, their words overlapping, incoherent at first. Then it grew louder and clearer. He turned. All the dolls were now inside the shrine, lining the walls, sitting along the floor, staring up at him. "Toru, stay." He backed away, trembling. One of the dolls blinked. He screamed and bolted outside, stumbling over roots and rocks, tearing his jeans and scraping his arms. The forest twisted around him. No trail, no markers, only fog and whispers. Every time he looked behind him, there were more dolls, appearing in trees, sitting on branches, watching. He ran for hours, but no matter which direction he went, he ended up back at the shrine. Every time. By nightfall, he was sobbing. His last camera footage showed him kneeling before the altar, whispering back to the dolls, "You can have it. You can have my name." Then silence. The next morning, hikers found the camera, still recording 18 hours of static, broken by soft whispers and laughter. Toru was never found. But now, hikers say they hear a man's voice in the forest at night, begging them to listen. If they answer, they claim to see a flicker of red ahead, the shrine. And then, they forget who they are. One woman was found wandering days later, barefoot and shivering. She spoke only one sentence. "I'm just one of the dolls now." Locals say the shrine doesn't just steal your soul. It fills your body with something else. So if you ever find yourself in Yamanaka Forest, and you hear your name being whispered by voices you don't recognize, don't follow it. Don't speak back. And never, ever enter the shrine. Because once it knows your name, it never lets go. They call it the tunnel that doesn't end. Somewhere along Route 299 in Saitama Prefecture, nestled between overgrown hills and misty forests, lies a tunnel known locally as Shinigami Tanaru, the Death God's Tunnel. To most, it's just another stretch of old road. But for those who drive through it after midnight, strange things begin to happen. Time bends, shadows move, and some never make it out. In July 2019, an American exchange student named Daniel Carter disappeared near the area. He was an amateur filmmaker attending Waseda University, documenting haunted spots in Japan for his thesis and YouTube project. His final upload, titled Midnight Tunnel Challenge, was never published publicly. It only surfaced after his parents pushed for a police investigation. This is what the recovered footage revealed. The video opens with Daniel sitting in a car parked near the tunnel entrance. The timestamp reads 12:03 a.m. He's grinning nervously, holding his camera. So, this is the famous Route 299 tunnel. Locals say if you drive through exactly at midnight and honk 3 times, you'll summon something, either a ghost or something worse. He laughs, but it's hollow. Behind him, the mouth of the tunnel yawns wide and black, carved into the mountain like a scar. Moss creeps along its sides, and the yellow road lines are faded to near invisibility. The engine starts. He drives in. The inside is what you'd expect: damp concrete walls, flickering yellow lights, old graffiti. It echoes. Every tire rotation clicks against the ground like footsteps. Then the horn. Then a short silence. He drives for 30 seconds, then checks the time. 12:04 a.m. Then again. 12:04 a.m. Still, he frowns. Okay, weird. I feel like I've been driving longer. He looks in the rearview mirror. No end to the tunnel behind him. He accelerates slightly. 12 minutes later, the footage shows his confusion turning into panic. His GPS isn't working. His phone's lost signal. The car's clock still reads 12:04. He brakes, gets out, films the tunnel around him. There are scratches on the walls now. Dozens, maybe hundreds. Long, thin, carved lines like claw marks or fingernails. And then the sound begins. It's faint, like someone running. Fast, barefoot, echoing from deep inside the tunnel. Daniel spins around, camera jerking with motion blur. The sound stops. He calls out, "Hello? Is someone there?" Only silence. He walks toward the rear of the tunnel. But no matter how far he walks, the exit never appears. The walls feel tighter, the light dimmer. His voice echoes back in whispers that don't match what he said. At one point, he films himself. "I'm not kidding anymore. I've been walking for an hour." But the clock is still stuck on 12:04. And it's cold now. Really cold. Then, suddenly, he runs. The camera shakes violently. His breath ragged. Behind him, a new sound. Hands. Dozens. Slapping the concrete. Crawling toward him. He doesn't look back. Just screams. And the whispering starts again, his own voice, repeated back to him from all directions. "Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop." Finally, the footage cuts to black. And when it returns, Daniel is in the car, shaking. His face is pale, soaked with sweat. The time? 12:05. He looks into the camera, eyes wide with terror. "I saw her," he whispers. Then, louder. "She was behind me. A woman. Pale skin. No eyes. Crawling on the ceiling." He breaks into tears. "I think I left part of me behind. I don't feel right." The footage ends there. Police later found his car, parked at the tunnel entrance, empty. The driver's door was open. Inside the vehicle, muddy handprints lined the ceiling of the interior. Daniel was never found. Locals say the tunnel feeds on time and identity. It traps travelers in loops until they forget who they are. Some say the woman inside the tunnel isn't a ghost. She's a time wraith. A spirit condemned to relive her death endlessly. And she drags others into her broken reality. There are reports from other travelers too. People who drove through at night and emerged hours later, despite swearing it took only minutes. One man said his car radio played static the whole way through, until a little girl's voice came on and said, "Turn off your lights, or she'll see you." He didn't. They found his vehicle days later. He was sitting in the driver's seat, eyes wide open, lips sewn shut with black thread. No one has ever explained it. Now, the locals seal the tunnel every year during Obon, the festival of the dead. They line the entrance with salt, hang ofuda, protective charms, and whisper prayers in hopes it stays asleep. But sometimes, the salt is brushed away, and the tire tracks are fresh. So if you ever find yourself on Route 299 at night, and your GPS suddenly glitches, if your clock won't move past 12:04, If you hear running behind you, but no one's there, don't stop, don't speak, and never, ever look at the ceiling, because once she sees you, she follows forever.